Have you ever felt like the universe is trying to tell you something, but you keep missing the message? What if I told you that right now, in this very moment, you're exactly where you're meant to be, watching this video not by chance, but by divine appointment? The fact that you clicked on this video, that these words are reaching your ears right now, isn't a coincidence. It's a cosmic interruption, a pause in the matrix of your ordinary life. And what you choose to do with this moment could change everything. Florence Scovel Shinn, one of the most powerful spiritual teachers of the 20th century, taught that the universe speaks to us constantly, but only a fraction of humanity has the ears to hear and the courage to act. Think about that for a second. Out of billions of people walking this earth, sleepwalking through their days, repeating the same patterns, blaming the same circumstances, only about 1% actually wake up. Only 1% have the audacity to look in the mirror and say, I am the creator of my reality, and if I don't like what I see, I have the power to change it. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, let me ask you something deeply personal. Has this ever happened to you? You set a goal, you visualize it, you even pray about it, but nothing seems to shift. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and you're still stuck in the same situation, wondering why manifestation works for everyone else, but not for you. Here's the truth that most spiritual teachers won't tell you. It's not that the law doesn't work for you. It's that you're unconsciously sabotaging yourself with the very thoughts you think no one else can hear. Those silent conversations in your mind, the ones where you rehearse failure, justify your limitations, and prepare for disappointment. Those are the real prayers the universe is answering. Florence Scovel Shinn understood something that modern manifestation culture has forgotten. She knew that the gap between desire and manifestation isn't about doing more rituals or visualizing harder. It's about becoming someone who no longer needs to ask because they already are. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might completely upend everything you thought you knew about creating your reality. This isn't about hope. Hope is actually the enemy. This is about something far more powerful, something that most people are terrified to embrace because it demands total responsibility. The universe has paused your regularly scheduled programming to deliver you this transmission. And here's what makes this moment different from every other self-help video you've watched. You're ready. Something in you knows that the old way isn't working anymore. The excuses are wearing thin. The victim story is getting boring even to you. And deep down, beneath all the conditioning and fear, there's a part of you that remembers who you really are, sovereign, a creator, a force of nature that somehow convinced itself it was powerless. Florence Scovel Shinn would look at your life right now and ask you one piercing question. When are you going to stop auditioning for a role you already own? You see, there's a throne with your name on it. It's been sitting empty, gathering dust, while you've been down in the servants' quarters, convincing yourself that you don't deserve to sit there. You've been playing small, playing safe, playing the victim so convincingly that you've almost forgotten it's just a role. But exhaustion is a gift. When you're tired enough of your own excuses, tired enough of the same conversations with the same complaints, tired enough of watching other people live the life you say you want, that's when transformation becomes inevitable. Here's the hidden truth that nobody talks about in manifestation circles. Your life right now is a broken record, and you're the one who keeps putting the needle back at the beginning. Same relationship drama, different person. Same financial struggle, different month. Same health crisis, different symptom. It's an endless loop, and the mind loves to convince you that it's happening to you, that these are circumstances beyond your control, that if only the economy were better, if only your family were more supportive, if only you'd gotten different opportunities. But Florence knew something that cuts through all of that comfortable delusion. She understood that repetition is never random. When the same patterns keep showing up in your life, It's not the universe punishing you. It's the universe showing you a mirror, revealing the internal state you've been living from without even realizing it. Think about the concept of a broken record for a moment. The record itself isn't broken. It's just stuck in a groove, playing the same few seconds over and over. Your consciousness is that needle. Every morning you wake up, and unconsciously, you drop that needle right back into the same groove. Scarcity, worry, limitation, almost, but not quite success. You've become so accustomed to this particular song that even though you hate it, it feels like home. It feels safer than the unknown territory of actually having what you want. Because here's what most people won't admit: success, abundance, genuine love, these things require you to die to your old identity. They demand that you abandon the familiar story of struggle, and the ego would rather suffer in familiar territory than thrive in unknown landscape. If this is the kind of content that challenges you to step up, that doesn't waste your time with fluff, then subscribe. This channel is for people who are serious about transformation, not just curious about it. Now, I want to go even deeper into this revelation because understanding the mechanics of this repetition is what finally breaks the cycle. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that your subconscious mind is running programs, ancient scripts written years ago, and these scripts are creating your reality on autopilot. Your conscious desire for wealth means nothing when your subconscious is programmed with childhood beliefs about money being scarce or rich people being corrupt. Your longing for love is powerless against deep-seated convictions that you're unworthy or that relationships always end in pain. These aren't just thoughts. They're energetic frequencies broadcasting from within you, and the universe, being a perfect mirror, keeps reflecting them back as your lived experience. If this is resonating with you right now, write in the comments, "I see the pattern," because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it, and that's when the real journey begins. But here's where most people get tripped up, where they waste years, decades even, trying to rearrange deck chairs on a sinking ship. They're looking at their external reality, the bank account, the relationship status, the job title, the body in the mirror, and they're frantically trying to fix these things directly. More networking, more dieting, more hustling, more positive affirmations shouted at the mirror. And nothing fundamentally changes because they're operating from a complete misunderstanding of how reality actually works. Florence Scovel Shinn would watch this frantic activity and gently remind you, the visible world is not the cause of anything. It's the effect. Everything you see with your physical eyes, everything you can touch and measure, every circumstance that feels so solid and unchangeable, it's all just a reflection. The material realm is a mirror, and mirrors don't have creative power. They only show you what's standing in front of them. Your physical reality right now, in all its glory or disaster, is simply reflecting back the dominant frequency of your consciousness. It's revealing the mental and emotional states you've been unconsciously broadcasting, probably for years. Imagine standing in front of a mirror with messy hair, and instead of combing your actual hair, you reach up and try to comb the reflection's hair on the glass. Sounds absurd, right? You'd immediately recognize the futility. Yet this is precisely what most people do with their lives. They see financial lack in their reality, so they scramble harder, work longer hours, stress more intensely, trying to fix the reflection of scarcity instead of addressing the consciousness of scarcity within themselves. They experience loneliness, so they desperately chase connection after connection, trying to fix the reflection of unworthiness instead of transforming the internal belief that they're not enough. The reflection will never change until you change what's standing in front of the mirror. This revelation might feel frustrating at first because it means all that external effort, while not useless, is only half the equation. You can take action in the physical world, and you should. But if the action isn't coming from a transformed internal state, you're just rearranging furniture in the same room. True transformation happens when you recognize that your outer world has no power over you. It's not creating your experience, it's responding to your experience. The bank account isn't making you feel poor. Your consciousness of lack is creating both the feeling and the bank account. The absent relationship isn't making you feel unworthy. Your belief in unworthiness is creating both the feeling and the absence. Florence understood this at a level that few spiritual teachers ever reach. She knew that the moment you stop giving power to external circumstances, the moment you recognize them as effects rather than causes, you reclaim your authority. You stop being a victim of your reality and become the conscious architect of it. The world stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens through you, responding to the frequency you're broadcasting from within. This is the hidden mechanism behind every genuine transformation you've ever witnessed. Someone shifts internally, and suddenly their entire external world reorganizes itself to match. If you're starting to understand how backwards you've been approaching this, write in the comments, "I've been combing the reflection." And that admission right there, that moment of recognition, is where real power begins to return to you. Because if you've been combing the reflection, it means you can stop. It means you can redirect all that energy toward the one thing that actually matters, the state of your inner world. Now, I want to reveal something that might initially feel uncomfortable, but it's the kind of truth that sets you free, even as it strips away your excuses. Every single thing that has happened to you, every rejection, every disappointment, every moment of being overlooked or undervalued, every financial setback, every relationship that crumbled, all of it, without exception, is an echo. It's the universe playing back to you declarations you made in the silent chambers of your own consciousness. These aren't declarations you made out loud. Most of the time, you weren't even aware you were making them. But in the background of your mind, beneath the surface, chatter, there's been a constant broadcast, a frequency, a quiet but persistent voice saying things like, "I'm not good enough," or "money is hard to come by," or "people always leave," or "success is for other people, not me." Florence Scovel Shinn called these your silent cries, and she understood that they carry more weight than any prayer you speak aloud, more power than any vision board you create. Because these silent declarations are soaked in feeling, reinforced by repetition, and believed at a level so deep you don't even question them anymore. They've become the operating system of your reality. And here's the part that's both terrifying and liberating. Nothing happens by accident. There are no random events. There are no victims of circumstance. Every situation you find yourself in is the materialization of an inner state you've been holding, consciously or unconsciously. Think about that for a moment. The job you lost? You had already resigned from it internally, perhaps months before, broadcasting a frequency of unworthiness or misalignment. The person who rejected you? You had already rejected yourself in some hidden corner of your psyche, and they simply mirrored that rejection back to you. The money that slipped through your fingers? You were already vibrating at the frequency of scarcity, and money, being energy, couldn't stick to that frequency. This isn't about blame. This is about authorship. You wrote these scenes. You penned every line of dialogue. The tragedy isn't that bad things happened to you. The tragedy is that you wrote them into your script and then forgot you were holding the pen. Imagine a playwright who writes a devastating tragedy, casts it, directs it, and then sits in the audience watching the play unfold, weeping and saying, "Why is this happening to me?" That's what most people do with their lives. You are the writer, the director, the producer, and somehow you've convinced yourself you're just a helpless audience member watching a show you have no control over. But you do have control. You've always had it. You've been wielding it unconsciously, which is why your life has felt so chaotic and random. The power never left you. You just forgot how to use it intentionally. This understanding completely transforms the game. Because if you wrote the current script, you can write a new one. If your silent cries created this reality, new declarations can create a different one. But first, you have to catch yourself in the act of authoring. If you're recognizing your own silent cries in this, write in the comments, "I am the author." Because once you acknowledge yourself as the author, the next question becomes obvious. How quickly can you rewrite the story? And this is where Florence Scovel Shinn makes a claim that your rational mind will immediately want to reject. She says it can happen in 1 hour, not 1 year, not 1 month, 1 hour. Your logical brain is probably laughing right now, listing all the evidence of why that's impossible. You've got decades of conditioning, years of patterns, mountains of debt, relationships that are damaged beyond repair, health conditions that doctors say are chronic. How could any of that shift in 60 minutes? But here's what your skeptical mind doesn't understand. Time, as you experience it, is not what you think it is. Time is an illusion constructed by memory and expectation. You remember yesterday, so you believe in the past. You anticipate tomorrow, so you believe in the future. But the only moment that actually exists is now. This exact second is the only point of power you have. And in consciousness, in the realm where creation actually happens, there is no time. There's only state. There's only frequency. There's only the vibrational signature of what you're embodying right now. When Florence talks about change happening in an hour, she's not talking about your bank account magically filling up or your ex-partner knocking on your door in 60 minutes. She's talking about something far more profound and immediate, the shift in state. The moment you truly assume a new state in consciousness, the moment you cross that bridge from wanting something to being someone who has it, reality changes instantly. The transaction is complete. The deal is done. Your consciousness has signed the contract, and the universe, being a perfect mirror, has no choice but to honor it. Now, the physical world might take some time to catch up. The furniture needs to be rearranged. The pieces need to move into position. The opportunities need to present themselves in ways that make logical sense. But in the only realm that matters, your consciousness, the change has already occurred. This is the hidden mechanism behind every instant transformation you've ever heard about. Someone was sick for years and suddenly healed. Someone was broke and suddenly found themselves in abundance. Someone was alone and suddenly met their person. The external shift didn't happen first. The internal shift happened, and the external world had to reorganize itself to match. If this resonated with you, hit that like button. It helps this message reach the people who are ready to hear it, the ones who've been searching for exactly this truth. Think about a decision you made that changed everything. Maybe it was deciding to leave a toxic relationship, or finally committing to a new path, or choosing to forgive someone who hurt you. The decision itself took seconds, but it altered the entire trajectory of your life because you shifted states. You moved from one frequency to another, and everything that followed was simply the universe responding to your new broadcast. That's what Florence means when she says it works in an hour. You can spend 60 minutes fully inhabiting a new state of consciousness, and in that hour, you can rewrite your entire reality at the level of causation, even if the effects take longer to fully materialize in form. If you're beginning to see how instantaneous real change actually is, write in the comments, "I choose a new state now." And choosing that new state isn't a gradual process. This is where most people misunderstand the mechanics entirely. They think transformation is a slow climb, a gradual evolution from one version of themselves to another. But Florence Scovel Shinn understood that consciousness doesn't work that way. When you genuinely cross the bridge from desire to possession, when you move from "I want this" to "I have this," the transaction is instantaneous. It's done. The house has been sold in consciousness. The deed is already signed. The keys are already in your hand, even if the physical moving truck hasn't arrived yet. Let me give you a concrete example of how this plays out. Imagine you've been struggling financially, and you decide to assume the state of abundance. Not hope for it, not visualize it from a distance, but actually assume it as your current reality. The moment you truly inhabit that state, feeling the security, the freedom, the ease of having more than enough, something profound happens in the invisible realm. Your energy signature changes, the frequency you're broadcasting shifts, and the universe, which is constantly reading that frequency, begins reorganizing circumstances to match it. You haven't done anything in the physical world yet. You haven't gotten a raise or won the lottery. But in consciousness, where all creation originates, you're already wealthy. And now it's just a matter of time before the physical realm catches up to reflect that internal truth. But here's the challenge, and this is where discipline becomes absolutely essential. Can you hold that new state for 1 hour? Not 1 minute of belief, followed by 59 minutes of doubt. Not periodic moments of faith, interrupted by mental arguments about why it's not possible. Can you suspend all judgment, all skepticism, all reference to current circumstances, and for 60 continuous minutes, radically inhabit the consciousness of your fulfilled desire? Can you live in that state so completely that your current physical reality feels like the illusion and your imagined state feels like the truth? This is what separates those who manifest consistently from those who dabble in spiritual concepts and wonder why nothing changes. Most people can hold a new state for about 30 seconds before their mind wanders back to problems, before doubt creeps in, before they check their bank account or look in the mirror and let the reflection convince them nothing has changed. But if you can maintain that unwavering focus, that absolute conviction, that complete suspension of disbelief for just 1 hour, you'll literally feel reality's gears start to shift. Things will begin moving behind the scenes. Doors will start opening. People will show up. Opportunities will present themselves. Not because you're forcing anything, but because you've changed the signal and the universe is responding to your new broadcast. If you're ready to commit to this kind of disciplined focus, write in the comments, "I will hold my state." Because holding your state requires something most people find almost impossible to accept. You have to treat your imagination as more real than the physical world, not metaphorically, not as a nice spiritual concept, but as the actual operational truth of how reality functions. Florence Scovel Shinn didn't speak in poetic terms about this. She declared it as fact. Your imagination is the only reality. Everything else, the buildings, the bank accounts, the bodies, the circumstances, is merely a temporary shadow cast by consciousness. And shadows, no matter how solid they appear, have no power over the light that creates them. This is where most people stumble, because we've been trained since childhood to worship the physical realm. We've been conditioned to believe that what we can see, touch, and measure is what's real, and that imagination is just fantasy, daydreaming, or wishful thinking. But the reverse is true. Imagination is the creative force. The physical world is the created effect. And once you understand this hierarchy, once you genuinely adopt the posture that consciousness is primary and matter is secondary, you stop being a slave to circumstances. You recognize that the physical realm has no choice but to conform to your inner state. It must bow down. It's the law. And that word, law, is critical here. Florence didn't offer these teachings as suggestions or helpful tips you could try if you felt like it. She presented them as immutable laws, operating with the same certainty as gravity. If you jump off a building, gravity doesn't care whether you believe in it or not. It pulls you down. The same applies to the laws of consciousness. You're using them right now, whether you realize it or not. The difference is that most people use them unconsciously, creating by default rather than by design. They imagine worst-case scenarios, rehearse anxieties, replay past traumas, and then wonder why their lives feel chaotic and painful. But when you understand these laws and apply them consciously, you stop crashing against the stones of circumstance and start flying above them. Florence identified 5 core principles, and these aren't cute ideas to ponder over coffee. They're the operating manual for reality itself. They explain why some people seem to effortlessly attract success, while others struggle despite working twice as hard. They reveal the hidden mechanisms behind every manifestation, every transformation, every shift from suffering to freedom. And the beauty of laws is that they're impersonal. They work for anyone who applies them correctly, regardless of background, education, or past failures. But they also demand precision. You can't half apply a law and expect full results. You can't occasionally believe and mostly doubt and wonder why nothing changes. These principles require your full commitment, your radical trust, your willingness to step into a new way of being even when everything around you contradicts it. If you're ready to learn these laws and apply them with precision, write in the comments, "Teach me the laws." And the first of these laws is probably the most counterintuitive, the one that goes against everything you've been taught about patience, delayed gratification, and waiting for the right time. Florence called it the annihilation of waiting, complete destruction of the future, the murder of hope itself. And I can already feel your resistance because we've been programmed to see hope as a virtue, something noble and necessary. But Florence saw through that illusion. She understood that hope is actually humanity's fatal disease, a confession of lack dressed up as optimism. Think about what hope really means. When you say, "I hope I get that job," or "I hope I find love," or "I hope my finances improve," what are you actually declaring? You're saying, "I don't have it now, but maybe someday." You're projecting your fulfillment into an imaginary future, and here's the devastating truth about the future. It never arrives. Tomorrow is always tomorrow. The horizon keeps moving as you walk toward it. As long as you're living in a state of "I will be," the universe has no choice but to echo back, "Then you are not." The law is perfectly obedient. It gives you exactly what you're claiming, and if you're claiming future possession, you get eternal waiting. This is the trap most people live in their entire lives. They're always preparing, always hoping, always working towards something they'll have later. But later never comes because they haven't occupied the state now. Florence would ask you point blank, why are you waiting for permission to feel successful? Why are you postponing the experience of abundance until the bank account matches it? Why are you treating your desired state like a destination you have to journey toward when you could simply step into it right now in consciousness? The annihilation of waiting means bringing the there to here and the then to now. It means collapsing time in your imagination and living from the end result immediately. Not thinking about the end, but thinking from it. This distinction is everything. When you think about being wealthy, you're observing it from outside, from your current state of lack. But when you think from wealth, you're inside it. You're experiencing it. You're moving through your day with the ease and security of someone who already has more than enough. And that shift in perspective, that occupation of the desired state right now, is what triggers manifestation. The universe doesn't respond to your wishes. It responds to your state of being. If your state is wanting, you get more experiences of wanting. If your state is having, you get more experiences of having. So the question becomes, can you stop waiting and start being? If you're ready to annihilate waiting and occupy your desire now, write in the comments, "I have it now." Because having it now, in consciousness, is the only place where creation actually happens. And this brings us to the part where Florence gets even more radical, where she challenges the very foundation of what you think is real. She tells you to murder the future. Not just ignore it, but actively destroy it as a concept in your mind. Stop living 10 years from now in your imagination. Stop projecting your success, your health, your love into some distant timeline. Bring it here. Collapse time itself and live that future reality right now in your inner experience. Your logical mind is screaming at this point. It's listing all the reasons why this is impossible, why you can't just pretend something is true when the facts say otherwise. And that's exactly where Florence drops the bomb that changes everything. Facts are irrelevant. Let that sink in for a moment. The thing you've been using as your primary evidence, your justification for why you can't have what you want, is completely irrelevant to the creative process. Facts are nothing more than crystallized thoughts, frozen moments of past consciousness. They represent what was, not what can be. They're the footprints of yesterday's state, and you're treating them like immovable mountains. When someone says, "But Florence, how can I assume I'm wealthy when my bank account is empty?" That's a fact. She doesn't coddle that question. She challenges it head on. That empty bank account is the result of your previous state of consciousness. It's old news. It's evidence of who you were being yesterday, last week, last year. But it has absolutely no authority over who you choose to be now. The fact that you're currently sick doesn't determine whether you can assume perfect health. The fact that you're currently alone doesn't prevent you from inhabiting the consciousness of being deeply loved. Facts are temporary. State is creative. This is where courage enters the equation. It takes tremendous courage to stand in front of overwhelming evidence and say, "This does not determine my reality." It takes audacity to look at your current circumstances and declare them irrelevant. Most people can't do it. They let facts become their prison bars, their excuse for staying stuck. They point to the evidence and say, "See, I can't change. Look at the proof." But what they don't realize is that they're giving their power away to shadows, to echoes, to the dead past. Florence would tell you to dare. Dare to enter the state of being regardless of what your eyes show you. Dare to assume health while symptoms persist. Dare to assume wealth while bills pile up. Dare to assume love while sitting alone. Not as denial, not as delusion, but as the conscious choice to operate from causation rather than effect, from imagination rather than history. If you're willing to dare beyond the facts, write in the comments, "I dare to assume." And assuming is more than just a mental exercise. This is where most people get the technique wrong and then blame the law for not working. They think visualization means sitting in meditation, picturing their desire from a distance, observing it like a movie playing on a screen in front of them. They imagine the new car sitting in a showroom somewhere. They visualize success happening to some future version of themselves. They see the relationship from the outside, like watching two characters in a film. This is thinking of the end, and it keeps you perpetually separate from what you want. Florence understood the critical distinction. You must think from the end, not of it. This shift in perspective is everything. When you think from the new car, you're not looking at it. You're in it. You're smelling the leather. You're feeling the steering wheel under your hands, the seat supporting your back. You're seeing the road unfold through your windshield. You're experiencing it from the inside as the person who already owns it. This isn't imagination in the abstract. This is consciousness occupying a new territory. The same applies to any desire. If you want respect, stop imagining people respecting you from a distance, like you're watching yourself in some future scenario. Instead, inhabit the consciousness of someone who already commands respect. Walk differently. Hold your spine differently. Feel the dignity, the quiet authority, the knowing that you matter. Hear the greetings, feel the firm handshakes, sense the shift in how people respond to your presence. You're not hoping for respect. You're wearing it like new skin. This is what it means to occupy a state. You have to live inside it so completely that it becomes more familiar than your current circumstances. You wear your desire the way you wear your clothes, without thinking about it, without questioning whether you deserve it. It's just yours. And here's the secret behind this technique. The subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a physical one. When you occupy a state fully in imagination, your entire nervous system responds as if it's real. Your energy shifts, your frequency changes, and the universe, reading that new frequency, begins to rearrange reality to match it. But this requires something most people refuse to give: complete immersion. You can't half occupy a state. You can't dip your toe in and keep one foot in your old identity. You have to step fully into the new skin and close the door on who you were. You have to treat this imagined state with more reverence and attention than you give to your current physical reality. If you understand the power of occupying your state fully, write in the comments, "I occupy my desire now." And occupying your desire means something even more audacious than most spiritual teachers will admit. It means stealing it. Yes, stealing. Florence Scovel Shinn didn't dress this up in polite language. She understood that consciousness recognizes no private property. Nothing is off limits to you. Everything you can feel is true. Everything you can inhabit in imagination belongs to you by right. You don't need to earn it. You don't need to prove yourself worthy. You don't need permission from the universe, from God, from your parents, or from anyone else. You simply appropriate it. This is mental appropriation in its purest form. You take possession in consciousness first, and the physical world has no choice but to follow. Want health? Steal it. Want wealth? Steal it. Want love? Steal it. Enter that state without knocking, without asking if you're allowed, without waiting for an invitation. Walk in, close the door behind you, and refuse to leave. This isn't arrogance. This is understanding how the law works. The universe is an infinite supply, and you're not taking anything away from anyone else. You're simply claiming what's already yours in potential. But here's where most people sabotage themselves without even realizing it. They treat their desire like a guest who might show up if conditions are right. They prepare for it, they hope for it, they check the door periodically to see if it's arrived yet. And as long as you're treating your desire as a visitor who may or may not come, it will stay away. Because the energy of waiting for a guest is the energy of not having. You're still in lack. You're still in separation. Florence would tell you to flip this relationship entirely. Stop treating your desire as something external that needs to arrive. Start treating it as the owner of the house. It's not coming to visit you. It already lives here. You don't wait for what you own. You don't check to see if your own furniture has shown up. You simply live with it, use it, enjoy it. Take it for granted in the best possible way. This shift in relationship is subtle but absolutely fundamental. When you treat your desire as already owned, already possessed, already integrated into your life, you stop broadcasting the frequency of lack and start broadcasting the frequency of having. Think about something you already have and take completely for granted. Maybe it's your phone, your shoes, a piece of furniture in your home. You don't spend time hoping you have it. You don't visualize having it. You just have it. And it's so normal, so natural, that you barely think about it. That's the frequency you need to cultivate with your desire. If you're ready to claim ownership instead of waiting as a hopeful guest, write in the comments, "It's already mine." And claiming that it's already yours would be simple if your mind cooperated. But here's the brutal truth most people don't want to face. The reason you haven't manifested what you want isn't because the law doesn't work or because you're not worthy. It's because your mind is completely undisciplined. It's a wild, untrained animal that has been consuming mental garbage for so long that it doesn't know how to focus on anything for more than a few seconds. Watch what happens when you try to hold a state. You close your eyes, you begin to imagine your desire, you start to feel it becoming real, and then within 30 seconds, your mind has wandered to what you need to buy at the grocery store, to that argument you had yesterday, to tomorrow's deadline, to something completely random. Someone said 3 weeks ago. You're not in your desired state anymore. You're back in the mental chaos, and you don't even realize how quickly you left. This is why most people fail at manifestation. Not because they lack desire, not because they don't try, but because they lack the fundamental skill of sustained focus. Your mind has become addicted to distraction. It's been trained by social media, by constant notifications, by the endless stream of external stimuli demanding your attention. It's like a dog that's never been taught to sit or stay, just running wildly in every direction, chasing every squirrel, responding to every noise. And you're trying to use this untrained mind to create your reality, wondering why nothing manifests. It's like trying to build a house with tools you don't know how to use. Florence understood that concentration is a muscle, and like any muscle, it must be trained. The ability to hold an image and a feeling without distraction doesn't come naturally to most people. It requires practice, discipline, and patience with yourself as you build this capacity. But once you develop it, once you can direct your attention and hold it steady like a laser beam instead of scattering it like a flashlight, everything changes. Because attention is the most valuable currency in the universe. It's more precious than money, more powerful than physical action. Where your attention rests, life grows. Where you consistently focus your consciousness, reality must eventually form. Without this trained attention, You're like a boat without a rudder in a storm, being tossed by every wave of circumstance, every gust of fear, every current of doubt. You have no control over your direction because you have no control over your mind. If you recognize your mind needs training and you're committed to developing this skill, write in the comments, "I will master my attention." And mastering your attention leads directly into the second law, one that most people violate every single day without realizing the damage they're doing. Florence called this the law of mental diet and inner speech, and it's about becoming as vigilant with what you allow into your mind as you are with what you put into your body. Think about it. If someone offered you rotten food, you'd refuse it with disgust. If someone tried to feed you poison, you'd recognize the danger immediately. But when it comes to your mind, you allow anyone and anything to dump garbage into it, and you consume it. Willingly, eagerly even. You scroll through crisis news for hours, absorbing stories of disaster, violence, and collapse. You engage in gossip about other people's failures and problems. You listen to disaster predictions, economic doom, health scares. You immerse yourself in conversations about illness, limitation, and everything that's wrong with the world. And then you wonder why your life feels heavy, why anxiety follows you everywhere, why you can't seem to shift into a positive state. It's because you're feeding your consciousness poison and expecting it to produce health. But here's what makes this even more insidious. Your imagination isn't some passive observer that only activates when you deliberately visualize. Your imagination is a constant womb, and it's always pregnant with something. It never stops creating. And the seed that impregnates it, the blueprint it uses to shape your reality, is your inner speech. Not what you say out loud to impress others, but what you say to yourself in the privacy of your own mind when no one else is listening. That endless internal monologue, that running commentary on your life, those silent conversations you have with yourself all day long, that's what's creating your world. And if you're honest, really honest, what does that inner speech sound like? For most people, it's a constant stream of negativity, worry, and mental rehearsal of problems. You spend hours mentally arguing with people who aren't even there, preparing defenses for attacks that haven't happened, justifying your failures, explaining your limitations, rehearsing worst-case scenarios. You run through conversations where you tell people off, where you prove you're right, where you defend yourself against imagined criticism. And every single one of these mental rehearsals is a prayer, a declaration, a seed planted in the fertile ground of your imagination. If you're seeing how your inner speech has been creating your reality, write in the comments, "I control my inner voice." And controlling your inner voice means understanding something that will completely shift how you approach your day. When you rehearse those arguments, when you prepare those defensive responses, when you imagine confrontations with people who haven't even said anything to you yet, you're not just wasting time. You're actively writing scripts for future conflicts. You're creating the very situations you fear by giving them energy, attention, and emotional investment in your imagination. The universe hears the whisper of your inner speech more clearly than any words you speak aloud. It doesn't distinguish between what you're rehearsing and what you're declaring as wanted. It simply takes your dominant mental activity and says, "This must be important to them. They keep thinking about it, feeling it, rehearsing it. Let's make sure they experience it." So you spend all morning mentally arguing with your boss about something that hasn't happened. And by afternoon, guess what shows up? The exact confrontation you rehearsed. And you think it's just bad luck, just life being difficult, when in reality, you scripted it in the theater of your mind hours earlier. This is where Florence's revision technique becomes absolutely crucial, and it's one of the most powerful tools you'll ever learn. When something unpleasant happens, when you receive bad news, when you have a negative encounter, most people accept it as final. They replay it, they tell their friends about it, they cement it in their memory and carry it forward into their future. But Florence understood something revolutionary. The past is not fixed. It's soft clay in the hands of awakened consciousness. You can reshape it. The moment something unwanted occurs, Go back to it in your imagination immediately and rewrite the scene. Don't just wish it had gone differently. Actually revise it. Hear the words you wanted to hear. See the outcome you desired. Feel the emotions of the revised version. If someone was rude to you, go back and hear them being kind. If you received a rejection, revise it to acceptance. If your bank balance disappointed you, see the number you wanted to see. This isn't denial of what happened. This is understanding that what happened was just one possible crystallization of consciousness, and you have the power to change the frequency that created it. By revising the past, you're not changing what occurred in linear time. You're changing your relationship to it, which changes the energetic signature you're carrying forward, which absolutely alters your future trajectory. You're refusing to let the past dictate your present state. If you're ready to start revising instead of accepting, write in the comments, "I revise my past now." And revising your past is only effective if you simultaneously become ruthless about guarding your present mental space. Florence would tell you that your mind needs to be treated like a walled garden, a sacred space where absolutely nothing enters without your explicit permission. Yet most people leave the gates wide open, allowing every stray thought, every piece of bad news, every doubt and fear to waltz right in and make itself comfortable. When doubt knocks at your door, and it will knock constantly in the beginning, you don't open the door and invite it in for tea. You don't engage with it, negotiate with it, or try to logically argue it away. You slam the door in its face immediately and replace it with an image of your success. This requires a level of mental discipline that most people have never developed. It means catching yourself the moment a destructive thought appears and refusing to give it any energy, any attention, any space in your consciousness. You have to become a ruthless gatekeeper. When someone starts talking about how bad the economy is, you either change the subject or you internally refuse to accept that narrative as your reality. When the news screams about crisis and disaster, you turn it off and return to your desired state. When your own mind tries to pull you into worry about tomorrow or regret about yesterday, you redirect it with the authority of someone who knows they're in charge. Your mental garden is your domain, and you decide what grows there. But here's where we arrive at the third law, and this is the true test, the watershed that separates those who dabble in manifestation from those who master it. This is about the absolute and total denial of sensory evidence. Everything in you is going to resist this principle because you've been trained your entire life to trust your senses, to believe that what you see, hear, and touch is the ultimate truth. But Florence would challenge that assumption head-on. Your senses are professional liars. They're not showing you what's possible. They're only reporting the frozen past. What you see with your eyes right now is the result of what you imagined yesterday, last month, last year. It's old news. It's the materialization of previous states of consciousness. And if you react to what you see, if you let current circumstances determine your state of being, you trap yourself in a temporal loop. You perpetuate the past endlessly, recreating the same conditions over and over because you're responding to effects rather than creating from cause. If you're ready to stop trusting your senses and start trusting your imagination, write in the comments, "Imagination is my reality," and making imagination your reality isn't theoretical. Florence lived this principle in ways that still astonish people today. She once wanted desperately to go to Barbados, to visit her mother, to feel the warmth of home, but she had no money. New York was buried in snow. Every single piece of sensory evidence screamed that Barbados was impossible. Her bank account said no. The winter weather said no. Logic said no. But Florence understood something that changed everything. She didn't have to accept the verdict of her senses. So she did something radical. She slammed the door on physical reality. Every night before sleep, she went to Barbados in her imagination, not as a wish, not as a fantasy, but as a lived experience. She felt herself sleeping in her mother's house. She smelled the mango trees outside the window. She heard the ocean waves in the distance. She felt tropical warmth on her skin. She made it so real in consciousness that her body responded as if she were actually there. This wasn't casual daydreaming. This was deliberate, disciplined denial of sensory evidence in favor of imaginal truth. And here's the part that separates masters from pretenders. During the day, when she walked through the freezing streets of New York, when snow fell on her shoulders, when every sense screamed, "You're in New York, you're broke, Barbados is impossible," she maintained her inner experience. She felt warm sand beneath her feet, even as she trudged through slush. She heard ocean waves, even as city traffic roared around her. She inhabited the consciousness of someone already in Barbados while her body moved through New York. And internally, she made a declaration that still echoes with power. This isn't real. Barbados is real. Think about the stubbornness required for that. The divine audacity to look at overwhelming physical evidence and declare it false. To trust imagination over sight, inner conviction over outer circumstance. Most people would have given up after one day, convinced by the snow, defeated by the empty bank account. But Florence held her state with the grip of someone who understood that consciousness is cause and matter is effect, not the other way around. And the universe, being a perfect mirror, eventually had to yield. Within weeks, opportunities appeared that she couldn't have logically planned. Money showed up through unexpected channels. Invitations materialized. Ships became available. The entire physical world rearranged itself to match her. Unwavering internal state. If you're willing to maintain your inner reality despite outer evidence, write in the comments, "My inner world is real." And recognizing your inner world as real means applying this same principle to every area of your life right now. When your bank account shows zero, Florence wouldn't tell you to ignore your bills or pretend you don't need to take practical action. She's not advocating irresponsibility, but she would absolutely tell you to deny that fact's authority over your state of being. The zero balance is information, not identity. It's a temporary condition, not your permanent nature. So you handle your responsibilities, yes, but you refuse to let that number define your consciousness. Instead, you enter silence. You close your eyes to the physical evidence and open your inner vision to abundance. You feel the texture of money in your hands. You experience the security of bills already paid. You inhabit the relief and freedom of financial ease. You make this internal experience more real, more vivid, more emotionally tangible than the bank statement. Because the current state of matter does not determine the potential of spirit. What is doesn't dictate what can be. This is the fork in the road where you have to make a choice. And there's no middle ground here. Florence would tell you plainly, you live in two worlds simultaneously. There's the world of the senses, where everything is measured, proven, and seemingly solid. And there's the world of imagination, where everything is fluid, possible, and waiting to be formed. You cannot serve both masters. You have to choose which one you're going to obey. If you serve your senses, if you let what you see, hear, and touch dictate your state of being, you will be a slave to circumstances for the rest of your life. You'll be tossed around by every change in the market, every diagnosis from a doctor, every opinion from another person. You'll live in constant reaction mode, always at the mercy of external conditions that you believe you have no control over. But if you serve imagination, if you make your inner vision the authority and let the physical world be secondary, then circumstances become your slaves. They have to rearrange themselves to match your consciousness. They have no choice. There's no halfway position here. You can't sort of trust imagination while mostly trusting your senses. You can't partially commit to a new state while keeping one foot in the old reality. The universe responds to your dominant allegiance, and if your allegiance is split, you get mixed results, confusion, and frustration. If you're choosing imagination as your master right now, write in the comments, "I serve imagination only." And serving imagination only doesn't mean what most people think it means. This brings us to the fourth law, and it's the one that trips up almost everyone who tries to manifest consciously. They misunderstand what it means to feel the fulfilled desire. They think they need to generate massive emotion, to be constantly jumping for joy, vibrating with excitement, pumping themselves up into some hysterical state of happiness. And then they burn out within days because that level of forced emotion is exhausting and completely unsustainable. Florence understood something subtle but crucial. Extreme emotion actually works against you. When you're overwhelmingly excited about something, when you're in disbelief at how amazing it is, you're signaling to your subconscious that this thing is surprising. And surprise means it's not normal for you. It's not your natural state. It's an exception, an anomaly, something special and rare. And what's not normal for you doesn't stay. Your consciousness will reject it like a body rejecting a foreign organ because it doesn't match your sense of identity. The real feeling of fulfilled desire isn't manic excitement. It's relief. It's normalcy. It's the quiet satisfaction of something being done, handled, already in place. Think about the clothes you're wearing right now. Do you feel them? Are you constantly aware of them? Probably not, unless something is uncomfortable. They're just there. They're yours. They're so normal, so integrated into your experience, that you don't give them a second thought. That's the frequency you need to cultivate with your desire. Florence would tell you to wear your new state the way you wear your favorite shirt, with ease, with familiarity, with the assumption that of course this is yours. Of course this is how things are. If you want wealth, the feeling isn't one of shock or euphoria. It's the calm security of knowing you can buy what you need without checking the price. It's the normalcy of having enough, the way someone who's always had enough takes it for granted. If you want health, it's not dramatic celebration. It's simply the natural expectation that your body works, the way you expect your lungs to breathe without conscious effort. The shift happens when your desired state feels more like home than your current physical circumstances. When abundance feels normal and lack feels strange. When health feels obvious and illness feels foreign. If you're understanding the power of naturalness over forced emotion, write in the comments, "It feels natural now." And making it feel natural requires you to do something that sounds almost sacrilegious to people who've been taught to put their goals on pedestals. Florence would tell you to knock that goal down. Stop treating it like some precious, unattainable thing that you have to tiptoe around and hope to maybe one day deserve. Stop worshiping your desire from a distance. The more you treat something as special, rare, and elevated, the more you're declaring that it's not for you, not normal for you, not part of your everyday reality. Knock it off the pedestal. Make it common. Treat $1 million like pocket change in your consciousness. Treat perfect health as the obvious, default state of your body, not some miracle you're begging for. Treat ideal love as the only logical outcome for someone like you, not some rare gift that only lucky people receive. Appropriate everything with the same casualness you use when you breathe. You don't marvel at breathing. You don't hope you'll be able to breathe tomorrow. You just breathe because it's natural, automatic, yours by right. This naturalness is the cement that binds imagination to physical form. It's the frequency that says, "This belongs to me. This is who I am. This is normal." And the universe, reading that frequency, has no choice but to deliver experiences that match it. But here's where we arrive at the most challenging law, the one that demands the most from you. The fifth principle, silence and the death of the old self. Florence didn't sugarcoat this. She said it plainly. You cannot put new wine into old wineskins. The container will burst. You cannot carry your old personality with all its accumulated grievances, its victim stories, its cherished limitations, into the new level of consciousness you're trying to inhabit. The old you and the new you cannot coexist. One must die for the other to fully live. And the death she's talking about is psychological, not physical. You have to hold a mental funeral for who you were, not who you were 10 years ago, who you were 5 minutes ago. That person who just complained about money? Dead. That person who rehearsed an old betrayal in their mind? Dead. That person who identified as sick, broken, unlucky, or unworthy, they no longer exist unless you resurrect them with your memory, unless you keep telling their story, unless you refuse to let them go. If you're ready to let the old version of yourself die, write in the comments, "The old me is gone." And letting the old you go isn't something you announce to the world. This is where silence becomes absolutely essential. Florence understood that creation happens in darkness, in secret, in the hidden chambers of consciousness. Think about how a seed grows. It needs to be buried in dark soil, protected from light, left undisturbed. If you dig up that seed every hour to check if it's growing, to show your neighbors the progress, to get validation that something is happening, you kill it. You destroy the very process you're trying to nurture. Your desire works the same way. It needs the darkness and silence of your inner world to germinate. But what do most people do? The moment they have a dream, a vision, a new goal, they immediately start talking about it. They tell their friends, their family, their coworkers. They seek opinions, ask for advice, explain their plans in detail. And with every conversation, they're bleeding energy. They're dissipating the contained pressure that's necessary for manifestation. They're inviting doubt, skepticism, and other people's limitations into their sacred creative space. Florence would tell you to keep the secret. Cook your desire in the pressure cooker of silence. Don't share it with people who don't understand these laws. Don't seek external validation or permission. What do you know? That's all that matters. Not what others think, not what seems realistic to them, not what they believe is possible for you. When you keep your desire contained within, the pressure builds, the energy accumulates, and eventually, the explosion of manifestation becomes inevitable because there's nowhere else for that energy to go, except into physical form. And in that silence, in that sacred inner space where you're holding your new state, you need to recognize something that changes everything. You need to understand who you actually are, the power that creates galaxies, that holds atoms together, that orchestrates the dance of planets and stars. That same power resides in your consciousness of being. You are not a powerless victim asking the universe for favors. You are the operant power. You are the creative force itself, experiencing life through this particular lens of individuality. And the way you wield that power is through two words: I am. When you say, I am, you're signing the check of reality. You're making a declaration that the universe must honor. What you place after those two words becomes your condemnation or your liberation. If you're claiming your power as the operant force, write in the comments, I am the power. So now you understand. You're not waiting for permission anymore. You're not hoping the universe will one day grant you what you want. You are the universe, localized in this body, experiencing itself through your unique perspective. And every time you declare I am, you're writing reality itself. If you've made it this far, if you've stayed with me through this entire journey, it means something. This message found you for a reason. You're part of that 1% who's willing to hear the truth, to take responsibility, to step into your power without excuses. And I want to continue this conversation with you. If this channel is giving you the kind of content that actually shifts something in you, that challenges you to grow, that doesn't coddle you with comfortable lies, then subscribe. Because what we're building here isn't just another self-help community. It's a space for people who are done playing small, who are ready to claim their throne, who understand that consciousness creates reality and are willing to do the work. And let me know you made it. To the end. Write in the comments, this message was meant for me. When I see that, I know we're connected in this understanding. I know you're not just consuming content, you're applying it, living it, becoming it. If something in this video resonated, if it shook something loose in you, if it reminded you of who you really are, hit that like button. It helps this message reach more people who need to hear it, more souls who are ready to wake up. And listen, there's another video right here that goes even deeper into how to apply these principles in practical, specific ways. Click on it and continue with me over there, because this isn't the end of the journey. This is just the beginning of you remembering your power. I'll see you in the next one.